Okay, it seems like we're live.
I will start.
Where did Julius go? I guess we're live now. I'm not sure who's moderating.
Okay, you can start. So I present myself. My name is Ezekiel Bokov. I'm GG for Google Cloud and consultant DevOps at Stack Labs, and I work um, in L'Oreal. I'm API developer in L'Oreal. So this is me.
Yeah, my name is Chuka Ofili. I'm a GD for cloud. I'm also a software engineer, or full stack developer, and a software architect. And I've been doing this for about 20 years. I'm here to answer any questions that people throw at me.
I don't know. Uh, okay, so I don't speak very well English, so I speak
Hmm.
French
Hmm. Mm.
small. So I start my career in cloud with GDSC community. So in 2018. So
Hmm.
this is my first event. I participate in Cloud Studio Games in
Hmm.
uh, the GDSC community. So if I participate, I like the cloud. So I decide to uh, augment, to improve my knowledge in cloud. So I continue to start to learn every day. If the community have event, I go to community events. If I finish, I came back at home and I study in a Coursera class. So every day. And if I finish to learn, I practice with Quick Labs. Uh, if I if I don't have the opportunity to practice, if I want in Quick Labs, so I use my own Google Cloud account to practice. So I try to see if there are problems around you that you can solve with technology. After that, look for tech solution that you can see to solve the problem. Then try to implement the solution you found. This will allow you to put into practice what you have learned. Even if
Mm.
you don't manage to finalize the solution, you will at you will at least have learned and gained
Hmm.
experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, um, and thanks for sharing that, Ezekias. And I know English is not your first language, but yeah, you're doing okay. You're doing okay. uh, so my own journey to cloud is slightly different. I think, um, because backstory, I started out trying to get into tech because of gaming, and that's where I really started from. But somewhere along the line, after learning development coding, I mean, I learned HTML and JavaScript, learned React, learned front end, so on and so forth. But you know, at some point, you have to take the code and put it somewhere so that people can see, right? You built a website, people had to see it, and those days it used to be HostGator and Linode servers that we used to use, where we'd figure out how to use bash commands so that we'll be able to get FTP our code into the servers. To be honest, it's around that point that my journey to cloud really started. And back in the day, it used to be just VPS servers that you'd host and configure Nginx and put your code on, and then before you know what's happening, container systems came, and containerization came, and Docker came, and microservices came. But with each of these technologies that came, the one thing that I did, like Ezekias, was go to the manual, go to documentation, read up, practice, spin up my own personal servers, practice, write documentation, practice. And I know write documentation may feel weird to a lot of people, but when you're trying to write something or when you're trying to write or document how you did something, it reinforces the knowledge in your head. So next time you may not even need to, go back to the reference manual to learn how to do it. That helped me a lot actually. And then following years, communities came through. I did a lot of reading up from using the manual on the website. And then, of course, there's a lot of free tutorials and free documentation that you can find online, and YouTube, the biggest library you can find on the internet for free. That's how actually I learned, right? And learned a lot of Google technologies, started understanding how each of them works, started actually using them, and then eventually took the cloud certification examination. And I passed it the first time, and I was like, okay, that reinforces my knowledge. So other tools that actually help me, and I always say this anytime any chance I get. Quick Labs. Quick Labs is a Google product that sort of allows you practice, all these DevOps or all these cloud journeys in the form of labs, right? The labs are online. You follow a lab, maybe how to deploy a Hello World application on a Kubernetes cluster, or how to set up a Kubernetes cluster, for example. Follow the lab through from beginning to end. You'll pick up a whole bunch of knowledge. And the labs are not just documentation, actually, they're hands on experiences with free access to clusters and shell environments for you to practice. And I still keep doing that till today. If there's something that I want to learn in cloud that I don't know, after reading the documentation, I'll go check Quick Labs to see if there's a lab for it. And if there is, I take the lab, and all good.
Great. Thank you so much, Shuka and
Yeah.
Ezekiel.
Yes.
I've just from our previous speaker, he was talking about mentorship and keeping us your well-being, and we probably have some students who are just starting their cloud journey. You want to tell us about mentorship, how it looks like to you, how was it like from the beginning? We can just take that first as a side attraction, and then before we get into the technical questions, if that's okay.
Okay. Who's the question directed at? Me, Ezekiel? So
Yes, Chuka. Yes, Chuka. Yes, Chuka.
okay. So if I get if I get you correctly, the question is where did I find mentorship, or how do I mentor other people? What's the question? Because I wasn't sure.
So we want to be, we want to know how you go about your how you got mentorship. How is that process like in
Mm,
getting mentorship? Because it's something that
mm.
is not very feasible, especially when you're starting.
Absolutely. It's a good question. Well, unfortunately for me, during my time, there were not a lot of people ahead of me that I was aware of that were doing anything relative to cloud. Everybody still were doing bare metal server stuff. And bare metal server stuff, I did have an ecosystem of people I could call to ask questions. But with cloud was something that was new and emerging for me. I mean, it's not new and emerging for some of you who are out there today, but for me at my time, during my time, it was new and emerging. So all of us were just trying to figure this stuff out then. But just because I didn't have any mentors doesn't mean that the mentorship isn't possible. For anyone who wants to go into cloud today, because now it's no longer new and emerging. It's now mainstream. So there are quite a lot of people in that environment that you can find in your ecosystem that you can reach out to help mentor you. I know it doesn't satisfactorily answer your question, but I guess just different eras.
Sure, sure. That is enough. For Ezekiel, you can just take few seconds and let us know also how is it like for you. Did you get a mentorship or you didn't? You just figure it out on your own. Ezekiel?
Uh, Sorry, I
Yeah.
don't speak Hindi very well. I speak.
Mhm, mhm.
All right, I'll go very slowly. I'm sorry. So I was saying, did you get mentorship when you were starting your process or not?
The process to what
To become a cloud engineer.
cloud engineer. Okay, so I say I start my career in cloud with GDSC community. So every day, if the community have events, I go to events. If I finish, I came back at home. I take my laptop. I go to Coursera to learn the class, Google Cloud class. If I finish, I go to Quick Labs to practice. But if I don't, the problem is the limit of Quick Labs. So in the Quick Labs, you don't do all things. You don't do all um, so you don't practice all in Quick Labs. So you need to have your own Google Cloud account to practice. If you have an idea to resolve a problem of community, use your own Google Cloud account to do the solution. So for me, my career is uh, mm, I do my career with Google Developer Community.
Great, great. I think that is really, really good for us. So, guys, that's it. He did from Go Develop Community, so make use of it. So, Chuka, what are some of the key benefits of cloud computing, and how has cloud landscape evolved over the years? That's directed to Chuka.
Yeah. Benefits of cloud computing. I guess, the biggest benefit is that you don't have to manage your own servers, right? Like me, I mean, I started in the era where we had bare metal, right? But let me not start answering the second question. But to me, that's the biggest benefit. You don't have to worry about managing your servers yourself. The whole point of the cloud is that there are engineers and there, network professionals who their job is day to day to figure out if those machines are up to date, if those machines are working, make sure that there's enough RAM, there's enough computing power, there's enough power, actual power, set to your server. And that in itself is not something anybody wants to worry about, right? So let the people who will manage those services, let them do it. And then you can focus on what you really want to do. Usually it's probably building a product or trying to build a company. That's your main focus, not trying to figure out infrastructure and manage cloud. Your second question was how, I think, how did you say it? You said, how
How
does
the
it?
clouds, yeah, how does the cloud landscape evolve over the year?
Yeah, the cloud landscape evolve over the year. I mean, to understand where we are now, I could hint about where we're coming from, and I already said some of this earlier on when I was introducing myself. I said, back in the day, it started with bare metal servers, right? You'd have a physical computer where you'd plug it to the internet. It has a live IP address, and then it exists on the web, right? And then you host your applications on it, but you have to tend to that server. The server needs updates. The server needs, a new operating system, or the server goes down, you have to figure out how to make sure it comes back up. But bare metal servers were a thing, back in the day. I mean, think of banks today. Most of them, maybe some of them will still run bare metal servers, and those are the servers that they manage themselves. And then fast forward a couple of years, and then we started having bare metal servers in the cloud, right? Managed services. So people will tell you, oh, come and take a bare metal server. We will take care of it. We'll manage it. We'll give it power. But it's not, I wouldn't say it's cloud enabled. It's just a physical machine that somebody else is managing. Then move on a couple of years, we then move to VMs, which are called virtual machines, where a physical bare metal machine is then divided into, logical spaces. So you could have one computer that's powerful enough, and then they will divide it into 10 or 15, and those 15 which are now called virtual machines, those 15 virtual machines will then be sold to other people. That's what we used to call shared servers, right? Where they will install something like a cPanel. Those of us who know what cPanel is, they'll put a cPanel for you, and you have your own sort of dedicated space inside that bare metal server or that virtual machine. And then fast forward a couple more years, then you had your big names like Amazon and Google, Azure, who then sell virtual nodes, right? Which is different from shared hosting. Is now like a cluster of virtual machines, all managed together. So thousands of virtual machines that they can then sell, and you can configure and initiate on your own. Before, you'd have to wait for them to provision the server for you. Now you have cloud tools that just allow you auto provision them, and in 15 seconds you can get your cloud server, your digital oceans and the rest of them. There's so many of them. And then fast forward a couple more years to now where we are, where we have containers, right? Docker containers, Linux containers, and so on and so forth. Kubernetes containers. All these containers are, what hosting providers do today, and those things sit on top of virtual machines actually. And I mean, there is a kind of container system that doesn't really use virtual machines, just talk to the kernel directly. But this is where we are now, where you just have small units of compute space that you can then use. And then fast forward maybe a couple months after, and then we have what we call serverless and cloud functions and Lambda functions. Those things that you don't have to pay for a a virtual machine or a container running continuously. All you pay is for compute power, right? So when your script runs, that's when you pay versus when so you can see how you were paying from one big machine to paying for small space on the machine to paying for a virtual machine to paying for a container to then paying for just the code that is actually run. And to me, that's the
Wow.
progression.
Wow.
And who knows, what the future holds. Now that we have AI, who knows, we may not even be running code anymore. Things will just happen magically.
Sure. Thank you, Chuka. Thank you so much. So I'll just ask one more question and then I'll turn over to my colleague. She has some questions. We have so many questions coming in the chat. And
Okay.
so let me just ask this one quickly so that we have the time to have all of those questions answered at least, even though we can't. So this goes to Ezekiel. Ezekiel, I hope I'm pronouncing your name quite well. How do you manage and monitor cloud resources, and what tools and techniques do you use? What do you use? How do you manage and monitor cloud resources, and what tools and technique do you use?
Sorry. Uh, I don't know. See. It's possible to have a question in French?
In French?
Yes.
Marjan, do you speak French?
No, I don't speak French.
Okay, unfortunately, none of us can. All right, so let's just allow Chuka to answer that question. And then I
Okay.
think I will try to send another question to you with SMS. Then you can just read it and answer.
Okay. So what was the question again?
So the question is, how do you manage and monitor cloud resources, and what tools and resource and techniques do you use?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm an unapologetic Google fanboy. So let's just get that out of the way, right? So I use Stackdriver, right? So Google has a product called Stackdriver, and essentially Stackdriver is sort of plugged into the whole Google ecosystem. It doesn't matter what Google resource you're using, be it Cloud SQL, be it Cloud Run, be it Kubernetes Engine, be it I don't know, even Cloud ML. It doesn't matter what you're using. Stackdriver is at the heart and center of all sort logs and analytics, error reporting, and so on and so forth. So when I want to know what's going on with the state of any of my services, the first place I go is Stackdriver. That's how I keep track of all logs and so on and so forth. I also use Google Alerting and error reporting, which are all tools within the Stackdriver ecosystem. Alerting is set up in a way that if any of my services are not up, basically if I'm pinging them and I'm telling them, check if this service does not respond in 5 minutes or 2 minutes or blah, it's all configurable. It sends me an email, or I use the Cloud Console app, which sends me a notification telling me that this service is down. And with that, I'm always on top of all services. Error reporting helps me keep track of all errors, as long as from the application layer, I key into the service, the error reporting service, so that if any of my application actually errors out due to either user inputs, bad user inputs, or maybe server goes down and so on and so forth, the error reporting dashboard gives me everything that I need to know, and I can quickly tag them to releases. And then also, as I resolve those issues, I can then, resolve them off on the dashboard. And if it's something that's reoccurring, I can always over time figure out if this thing has happened over a period of time, consistently. Error reporting gives me all that information. All this is within Stackdriver. So Stackdriver is what I use. It's very, very comprehensive. Anyone that keys into it makes it easy for you to keep track, manage, get insights into all your services that are running. All of this is on Google's platform, by the way.
Great, great, great. This is very interesting. The questions that are coming are so interesting, and I can't wait to ask them. Let me turn over to Marjan so that she continue from there, and maybe it will come back to me probably if we have the time.
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Julius, for this nice opportunity. Hi, Ezekias. Hi, Chuka.
Hi.
I have a question in English. I don't know if Ezekias. I think I was to forward this question to Chuka, but now he has answered two questions. Okay, any of you who will understand the question much better can take the chance to answer it, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So the question is, sorry, the question is, what are some of the most effective strategies for optimizing cloud costs, and how do you ensure that your cloud usage is efficient? Sorry.
Hmm. Does Ezekiah, did you get the question? Do you want to take a crack at it? Ezekiah.
Uh, yes. Okay, I try English.
Okay.
For me, to optimize the cost in Google Cloud, to use the serverless services, because in the cloud, the resource you pay the resource in the comment je vais dire ça en anglais? Sorry. Je me perds.
English. That's
English.
okay. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. I guess while I answer this question, if there's some questions we can run through a translator and then put it in a chat window for Ezekiel, and then maybe he can actually try to respond in French. That's still
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay. Okay. So as I was going to answer that. So what I do is leading into Stackdriver, because it's sort of related. For me to make all my code efficient, I tend to integrate all their SDKs. So the most important SDK that I tend to, especially for backend services, that I tend to integrate is called Google Stack Trace. Now, well, it's not Stack Trace, just Google Trace, I think. I actually have a YouTube video out about that. And what Trace does is that it sort of profiles most of the requests that happen. Tells me, like, maybe I make an API request, right? An API request is responding at, say, 300 or 400 milliseconds, but I want it to respond at 50 milliseconds, right? I would need to investigate why it's taking so long. Usually, when you're developing on your console or on your machine, on your computer locally, localhost always respond at on sub milliseconds, so you don't have any issues there. It's when you take it to the cloud, you now start realizing some services might be taking long to connect. So StackTrace will sort of profile it and tell you, oh, hey, out of the 400 milliseconds, 100 milliseconds was spent connecting to the database, and then another 200 milliseconds was spent querying the data. So you have connection, you have querying the data, and then the last 50 milliseconds was spent responding to the request. But that way, I know that, okay, out of 400 milliseconds, 300 milliseconds, or 200 milliseconds was spent querying, and 100 milliseconds was spent connecting. And maybe I know, because of the tools I'm using, maybe it's Postgres or MySQL, it shouldn't take that long. So I can go back to my code and investigate what's going on. Or I'll go to the cloud and maybe CloudScale, if that's what you're using, and investigate what's going on. Maybe connection pooling has not been optimized best. But the point is, the ingestion point where I get the information is in CloudTrace. And the first thing I have to do is actually integrate the CloudTrace SDK. As for optimizing your, so that's, code base, right? But as for making sure that you're utilizing, I think that's the word regarding the second question, making sure you're utilizing your Google Cloud account properly. The best advice I can give anyone is try serverless. If serverless fits the framework of what you're building or the product that you're building or service that you're hosting, if serverless fits it, then by all means, maybe take that approach, because you would only get to pay when a service or when that function is invoked and when it is run. That way, saving you good money. If not, the next best thing I would say is try something like Cloud Run, where the service is it's almost serverless, but basically you don't need a full Kubernetes cluster for example, to run it, or you don't need a full Docker cluster to run it. It will only just run that Docker container and give you a URL and just add your environment variables, and the container is good to go. I mean, if that doesn't work for you, then by all means, go full scale. Go get a Kubernetes engine cluster or try something like App Engine, whichever will tickle your fancy.
Thank you, Chuka, so much. That was so informative. Thank you so much.
Mhm. Sure.
So yeah, Ezekias,
Yes,
the next question is directed to you, but I have written it in over. I've translated it in French for you. It's in the chat section. Can you see it?
yes, I see.
Okay, let me just read it out for the people who don't understand French. The question is, how do you stay up to date with the latest trends and technologies in cloud computing, and what resources do you rely on? Uh, yeah.
Okay, I answer in French or in English.
I think you can do it. I think you can do it in French. Is this
Yeah.
recorded? Is this recorded?
Nope.
No. Oh, okay. Well, I speak the language that it's okay for you. I
You're
mean, I
comfortable
guess.
in, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ok, ok, d'accord, thank you. Ok, pour me tenir au courant de tout ce qu'il y a comme nouveauté, je participe aux activités de la communauté. Quand il y a les Google Developer Group qui organisent un événement, je suis. Je participe aux activités, comme moi je suis plus Google Cloud, donc du coup je participe beaucoup à tout ce qui est événement sur Google Cloud. Il y a Google Cloud Community qui lance souvent régulièrement des challenges, des événements sur la plateforme de Google Cloud Community. Il y a aussi le programme Google Cloud Innovator pour tout ce qui est pour toutes les personnes qui sont passionnées par tout ce qui est technologique Google Cloud. Donc, vous pouvez vous inscrire, il suffit d'aller sur la plateforme et vous participez à des événements avec des ingénieurs de chez Google, puis vous posez des questions et tout. Donc, voilà un peu comment je me tiens au courant de tout ce qu'il y a comme nouveauté, tendance au niveau de tout ce qui est cloud computing. Mais il faut dire que je suis plus Google Cloud, Amazon, un peu Azure. Non, je suis plus Google Cloud. Merci.
Okay. Okay.
So, are you done? Are you done with answering the
I
Okay,
heard.
okay.
question?
So
I
I
Yeah, I
explain
heard
in
Mercy.
English.
Yeah, I heard Mercy. I'm sure
Likewise.
he's
Yeah, merci. Merci.
done.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
Chuka, do you understand French?
No, I only know the word we and Mercy.
So I will translate in English. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So I say so I go to a GDG event.
Mm,
Uh, I go to GDG event to see if the Google update the technology, or I participate in activity of Google Cloud Innovator Program and the uh, Google Developer Expert. Bon, so not for all people, but
yeah.
so if the Google have events, I go. So I recommend the Google Cloud Community .com. So this is the community of Google Cloud. So every day the people organize the events for new technology with the Google engineer and the challenge in Google Cloud skills. So it's very good resource to get the information of the
That
update
they
in
need.
the
Mm,
Google Cloud technology.
absolutely. 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 Yeah.
Okay, that's so nice. Thank you, Ezekias. Um, Let me direct the next question to Chuka.
Mhm.
I know you've answered multiple questions, but just
Sure.
bear with us. Yeah.
No
So the
worries.
last it's the last question from us, then we're gonna pick questions from the audience, right?
Sure.
Yep.
Okay, so what are the some of the most exciting new developments in cloud technology, and what impact do you expect them to have in future?
Oof. Okay. Well, so, oh man, there are too many things that are exciting. However, I'd say, I guess this, I'd say the new Google Workspaces AI integration, right? I saw something that the Google team released 2 days, 3 days ago, maybe sometime within last week, where they talked about the new Google workspaces and how AI is going to be integrated across their products, where you could tell the prompt to say, hey, can you summarize this email? And then the the tool within Google Workspaces will summarize the email, and then you can tell it, okay, since you summarized it, can you create a presentation for the same clients, or can you create a document that highlights X, Y, Z? And it was mind blowing. Now I know ChatGPT is there, right? ChatGPT is it's a chat prompt, which mind blowing, by the way, and it's been used. It's been showcased as a tool that anybody can just use, and then ask it whatever you want it to do, feed it information to learn, and then it give you responses. But I think Google's approach has been phenomenal. It was just mind blowing how they were able to integrate it to all the products that they have within the Google Workspace. It was just I'm excited. I can't wait till I can use it on a day to day, because I think that's something to look forward to.
Thank you, Chuka. That is so exciting.
Sure.
Okay, one question from the audience, Ezekias. Someone is asking, I am an absolute beginner when it comes to cloud, but I'm interested in learning. Any tips for me, please?
Okay, tips to planning. So you start, go to uh, GDSC and GDG events. If you go to GDSC and GDG events, if you do the uh, lab in the event, if you come back at home, you go to quick labs because the GDG and GDSC community give a credit for you. You do the lab in the Google Cloud Skills platform. And if you go back at home, you go to platform and you try to use the technology. If you don't know the thing, you go to documentation of Google Cloud to learn the documentation for Google Cloud. And if you don't understand the documentation, you seek the people in the community to ask the people. So I need your help. It's not a problem if you go to Twitter and you ask in the GT one people in the community. I don't understand the terms of the technology, so help me to give me the information to help me. Is very good possibility to start. So it's not difficult to start. So you go to activity of community. If you if you come back at home, you continue to study in quick labs, and you participate in the Google community events online if you have a connection on internet. So it's very good. Comment je dis? It's very good. Uh, it's very good to start.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. I hope your question is answered. And one more thing before I pass it next to Julius. I want to encourage you to, if you're asking a question in the audience, yeah, you can kindly type in both languages. If you're typing in French, you can kindly translate to English so that we can all understand what you're asking. Is that right? Thank you so much. Julius?
All right. Thank you. Thank you. And there's a question here. It's interesting a little bit. Can my Google Cloud Badge allow me to apply for Cloud GDE? And must I be certified? I'm just trying to read it exactly as it is. I don't want to paraphrase his question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Uh,
Trika.
no, no. The short answer is no. The short answer is no. However, that being said, I think there are there is a program called Road to GDE, where mentors or other GDE mentor other people who want to become GDEs, right? And the GDE program, of course, The criteria to getting is obviously all listed on the GD website. You know the things that you need to do, but then you can then work with a mentor who will then guide you through, being ready, being prepped and ready, so that even if it's a 3 to 6 months window, you would try to accomplish some of the things that and criteria that is required, but then also teach you and let you understand what it means to be a GD and what the what the essence of that role is. The other thing is, as long as you are passionate about your ecosystem, you're passionate about giving back, you're passionate about helping other people to be better at their craft, or to be better in tech, or just to grow in tech, the opportunities are just they're wide open. So I don't have exact details on when the Road to GD program will start for this year, but I'm sure if you follow all the sub-Saharan Africa Google developer handles on Twitter and on I think are they on Instagram? I think at least on Twitter, and then the Google blog, you should be able to get information on when the next Road to GDE program will start. I think that will be your most direct path. Um, I hope that helps.
Yeah, sure, it does.
Yeah.
uh, and you who asked, I hope it helps. All right, so the next question is it necessary to explore full stack development before cloud engineering? Is there any advantage to learning full stack front end before learning cloud engineering? Someone is asking that question.
Huh. um, I mean, let me try this before Ezekiel goes. I wouldn't say it is necessary for you to explore full stack development before exploring cloud engineering, but it does make your transition time much shorter. It's easier for backend engineers, especially, to transition into cloud engineering, in my own opinion, because part of what comes with backend engineering is that you have to do just a little bit of infra work or DevOps work, just a little bit. But then all you're doing is really expanding the scope of what it is that you do as a backend engineer. I know backend engineer is still writing core code, but then after you've written the code, you have to figure out how does that backend gets hosted and so on and so forth. And that's where it overlaps with cloud engineering. However, that being said, cloud engineering in itself is a whole different ballgame, right? Because it also not only involves, all the infra stuff, but then architecture stuff. Because the different facets to cloud engineering, right? You could be a cloud architect like I am, or you could be a full stack or backend engineer like I am. But both of them are two different roles. And you could also be a DevOps engineer like I am, which again, three different roles. So, and the reason why I'm saying this is because I know that each role in itself, they are all unique, right? But they're all part of cloud engineering. So I guess the question for whoever, okay, it's Eniola, I think. The question for Eniola would be, okay, you want to learn cloud engineering, but what kind of cloud engineer do you want to be? Do you want to be a data cloud engineer? Do you want to be a cloud architect, which is part of cloud engineering? Or do you want to be a cloud developer, right? Which is, so these are three different roles. Now, once you know which of the roles you want to do, it might make it easier for you to then figure out which path you want to take. But the short answer, I know I went into a long tangent there, but the short answer is no, it is not necessary.
All right, no, it is not necessary. That's it. So we have like two questions here, and we are kind of running out of time. So let me just ask them quickly. What recommendations do you have for us to pass DevOps engineering certification by Google? Anyone who understands it well can go ahead, if possible, both of you, but as fast as possible.
As guys, I'll let you take this one.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I have a recommendation to have passed DevOps engineer certification. So this is important to have to know the Google Cloud's services for DevOps. So Google Cloud have many services to implement the CI/CD call and to comment dirais-je, implement the CI/CD cycle and to secure the um, deployment. Okay, deployment cycle. So it's important to know the services, and it's important to know the how to monitor the services in Google Cloud. So this is very important for the DevOps engineer certification. Um, so this is the thing is important, but if you want to do the certification, you go to site web of Google Cloud and you see the requirement to do the certification. But with Google Cloud Skills Boost is if you use the Google Cloud Skills Boost and the credit of community uh, Google give you, uh, you learn and you practice and you pass your exam. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So let me add to what Ezekiel has also said. Um, very quickly, two sites that you can use to get information to help in addition to everything he said is, again, we've said this on this panel over and over again. Quick Labs is for sure a good way to help you with DevOps certification if that's what you want. Quick Labs in general is a good way for you to get path. It's like a road or path to certification. Another one of those sites, also powered by Google, is called Code Labs, and they sound the same. They sound similar. One is Quick Labs, the other one is Code Labs. Two different services, but they're all powered by Google. And the whole aim is to not just help you with knowledge, but also help you with your road to or path to certification. So check those two sites out. I think it'll also help.
Great.
The new name is of Quick Labs is Google Cloud Skills Boost. The new name.
The new name, but that's what I was
Yeah,
checking. I
new
was checking.
name. Yes,
What did you call it?
Google Cloud Skills Boost.
Skills Boost. No, but
Yes.
it's still running alongside Quick Labs. It's still running along. Quick Labs is still running. Skills Boost is
Uh-huh.
also a service on its own, and then there's also Code Labs. That's why I said in addition to what you said.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mm,
good.
yeah.
Thank you so much. We are out of time. And
Okay.
the audience are asking for your social media link. If that is okay, can you share it also? And Marjan, do you have
Yeah.
anything to say, or you want to, or for the panelists, if you have like a parting statement, you can give it to us. Then we call this panel a day.
I just want to say thank you so much for taking your time to be here with us.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
All
I put my
right.
handle in there. It's at Chukwuofili on all
Okay.
platforms, so that's fine.
Yep. We are going to drop it there, and they can have access to it.
Mhm.
Great. Other than that, we'll say thank you guys. Okay, Easyguess is here also. Let me drop it there. And it was very impactful. And for the audience, thank you for your time. I hope you learned. And I think there is one thing that stood out. Quick lab. All right. Bye, bye, bye.
Bye, guys.